Hi and welcome to Best in Tesla. Today I'm driving the ID3, so you can get a Tesla fanboy's perspective of this car.
I'm not a car reviewer by any means, but this video is to give you my perspective, a Tesla fanboy's perspective of how the ID3 holds up against a Tesla Model 3 that I have been driving in for 60,000 kilometers. Is this a competition to Tesla Model 3? And I will also compare it to some of the other EVs that are out there and how they all stack up against each other. So stay tuned because this is going to be very interesting.
Let's dive right in.
So I went out to the Volkswagen dealership one early morning to test out the ID3. And the first impression is a nice little hatchback. The ID3 is very pleasant to drive. It is quick off the line and handles really nicely. But there is a bit much plastic inside the car. It does feel like a Volkswagen to drive, but it does not feel like a Volkswagen inside the car. It does not have the same quality as a Golf, for example. It does not feel very well built inside. It feels much more like a toy car, and there's just cheap plastic everywhere.
Everywhere.
Not what I would expect from Volkswagen that made the e-Golf, because that was actually a great little EV. One of my friends has actually bought that, and that is a very nicely built car. This is a proper Golf. Very nice quality inside, but the ID3 feels more like, Volkswagen's cheaper brands like the Skoda, maybe a Skoda Fabia or something like that, but that car is very cheap. And this is where the ID3 falls a bit short in my opinion, because it's not actually a very cheap car. It costs from 325,000 Danish crowns, and the long range goes all the way up to 400,000 Danish crowns. That is Tesla territory when it comes to price. But does it actually hold up as a competitor to the Tesla Model 3 then, when the price is so close? And the short answer is no. The long answer is, when it comes to specs, this car does not come very close to the Model 3. And there are some key features that just kills it for me personally. This might be very different for you, but for me, I use a tow hitch all the time for my bike rack because I bike a lot, and for our storage box when we go on long holiday trips or skiing trips, and we do tow a trailer once in a while. Yes, we Europeans love our tow hitch, and I'm not gonna live without a tow hitch, and I cannot get that with the ID3. It does come with some kind of a little hook that you can mount a bike rack on, but only the cheapest model. And yes, this is where it gets a bit worse, because we have all heard about Volkswagen and their over 300 miles of range with the ID3, but you are not going to want this car. Here's why. I asked one of the guys at the dealership about the different versions of this car, and they gave me this little paper with 6 different versions. But it was all the lower range versions, just different equipment packages. So I asked for the long range, and he pointed to this little footnote down here where the long range was mentioned. They don't want you to buy this car, and you probably don't want to either. Because for Volkswagen to get this range, they made a lot of sacrifices. The long range will no longer have this fancy glass roof, probably too heavy. It would no longer be a 5-seater, but only a 4-seater, probably to save weight. And this version can't even get this little hook for the bike rack. All this to save weight to get more range, and probably cost as well because of the more batteries they have to put into the car. So the most expensive model the long range, that cost almost 400,000 Danish crowns, is also the worst car of them all. It only have the range. And just to compare, you can get the Tesla Model 3 long range for just 50,000 Danish crowns more, or the Model 3 standard range for just 370,000 Danish crowns. So the ID3 sits just in the middle of these two cars. So why would anyone buy this very expensive car? But of course, it's not all about range. It does drive well and handles just fine. But it does not have the specs of a Tesla Model 3, of course. It will do a 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.3 seconds, or the long range in 7.8 seconds. The top speed is just 170 kilometers an hour. So these numbers, of course, does not get even close to Tesla. The charging speed is also only 100 kilowatts. So to me, this is just already outdated. So I wouldn't be able to use these 175 kilowatt chargers we have here in Denmark from E.ON, for example. I can use them, but I can only get 100 kilowatt. And of course, I don't have access to the 150 or 250 kilowatt chargers from Tesla. And then there are, of course, the infotainment system, and this is a bit of a problem as well, because it's just very buggy. You can check out Fully Charged or CarWow's full car review of this. They're actually very good at doing a proper car review, and they do both complain about the software bugs. So yeah, it feels just a little half-baked, like many of the other EVs that has come out. And if we do compare it to the Tesla Model 3, it is not as safe as the Tesla Model 3 and doesn't have the space of the Tesla Model 3 with the big trunk and the big room beneath the trunk and the frunk as well. The ID3 does not have a frunk, and the Model 3 has a tow hitch that can tow up to 900 kilo. And of course, with the Tesla you get great software, and that is getting better and better over time. So to me, you're really doing a lot of compromises with the ID3 compared to the Tesla Model 3. But the price of the ID3 is not far off a Tesla Model 3. And this is really the biggest issue with this car. Because if you don't mind the software box and having no tow hitch is not a problem for you, and the slow charging speed, the ID3 is a great little electric hatchback. Don't get me wrong, it is a decent electric car. But the price is not decent. 325 to 400,000, that's not cheap. That is just too expensive for what you're getting with this little plastic car. If it costed from 250,000 to 300,000, it would have been just the perfect little electric hatchback for what you would be paying for. But when the ID3 is very plastic and have software problems and so on, why would you buy this car over a Hyundai Kona, for example, that you can actually get for the 250 to 300,000 Danish crowns, or a Kia Niro for that matter? Two cars that has longer range than the cheapest ID3, and as I said, you don't want the long range ID3, and they are more spacious and can charge just as fast. Both come with a tow hitch. The Kia is just for a bike rack, but the Kona can tow a little trailer up to 300 kilos only, but you just get so much more car with these two cars than the ID3. So why would you buy the ID3 when it doesn't even really feels like a Volkswagen inside anyway? And if range and speed does not matter to you, then you can even get the Mazda MX-30, for example. That is even cheaper, but it's actually very well built, like a real Mazda. And I have had Mazdas for many years, and they are really known for their quality and well built. But this car, the MX-30, is kind of a city car, of course, because it really doesn't have much range. The Mazda MX-30 only does 200 kilometers. No, not miles. Kilometers, 200 kilometers of range, and can only charge with 50 kilowatt. So not the best road trip car, but if you only drive in the city, this will do just fine, and it's better built than the ID3 in my opinion, not so much plastic inside. But again, I must say, I think Mazda made a mistake here, or they just made this car not to get the big fines here in Europe, because the first thing people ask about when it comes to EVs is what is the range and how fast can it charge? And the range and charging speed of the MX-30 is just a joke here in 2020. But it is cheap and really nicely built. But it is the same with most EVs coming out. They all feel a bit rushed to the market and half-baked. Even the Hyundai Kona has just recalled 25,000 of their cars because of problem with fires in the batteries. And the otherwise pretty cool Polestar 2 has all been recalled because of safety critical software issues where the car would just shut down. And the car did actually come close to the Tesla Model 3 on specs. Tesla still beats it in pretty much every category, but it actually came close, so too bad. And the e-tron that also feels a bit rushed. Just take a look at this 12-month review from this guy. I will leave a link below. He even wants to sue Audi because Audi won't even fix all the problem that is wrong with it. So all in all, there has come a lot of competition out on the EV market. But if I, the Tesla fanboy, should point out some that is actually real competition to Tesla, or at least a good other option, I think the Jaguar I-Pace seems to deliver on most of what you would want. Again, it can't keep up with the Tesla Model 3 on specs like range, charging speed, 0 to 60 top speed and so on, but it gets really close. And it can actually make software updates. But this is actually a good example of it is not enough just to have the car being able to do software update. You actually have to come out with updates as well. For I can see and find online, the I-Pace had only had 3 updates in the 2 years it has been out. My Model 3 has gotten 3 updates in the last couple of months alone and actually made my car better. But the I-Pace is, in my opinion, one that gets really close to the Tesla Model 3. But again, it's a much higher price tag. So close, but no cigar. And then we of course have the Porsche Taycan when we are talking about expensive cars. This is a great EV. It looks cool and sounds cool, and of course is world-class luxury interior with hand-stitched leather and everything. Great specs all around. Maybe not the longest range, but very decent. It of course cost 1.7 million Danish crown, but it is allowed to, because it's a really well-built Porsche. It is a Porsche. But the ID3 is not allowed to be as expensive as it is. I think you have to do so many compromises with the car that you don't even have to do with the Hyundai Kona or the Kia Niro, but you have to pay more for the ID3. So don't really see the ID3 as anything better than the other electric vehicles that are already out there. So yeah, if money is not a big issue and you don't want a Tesla for any reason, the ID3 is a decent electric hatchback, and you will probably be very happy with it. But it is not a competitor to the Tesla Model 3, in my opinion. With the Tesla, you just get the whole package. You don't have to compromise. And with the Model 3, you get all this for a price that is not much more expensive than the ID3. You will get the long range of over 320 miles and the fast charging of 250 kilowatt. You will have great software with no software box that gets better and better over time, and so will your car. It is the safest of all the EVs. It is spacious with a big trunk and a big front. It's a 4-wheel drive. Very fun to drive with the fast acceleration that beats pretty much everything else out there. And it has a good top speed. It has a tow hitch that can tow 900 kilos. And if you need more, the Model X can tow over 2,200 kilos. And of course, it has something that no one of the other EVs has. And that is the Tesla charging network. And this is really hard to put a price on and make a big difference on a road trip, or if you can't charge at home. So yeah, the competition is not coming. The competition is here, and they don't really match up to the Tesla on anything, especially for that price. So the competition is not coming. Tesla is coming with their made in Germany Model Y that is going to have the new battery and being made by these 3 big casting pieces, the new paint job and everything. This car will be very well built and be cheaper to produce than all the other so-called competition. That car will set a whole new standard for EVs and probably cars in general, and it is coming out next year. So Tesla is coming, and Tesla is coming fast with new Model Y, Plaid Model S, the Cybertruck, the semi-truck, and they are all coming out next year. And the other guys haven't even caught up yet. Yeah, it's going to be brutal. Not for Tesla, but for everyone else.
That's just no comparison. Yeah, it's good to be back.